Welcome to my take on if Electronic Arts, or EA, is truly evil. I know this is a fairly controversial subject. If you're here for the EA part and don't really know my channel in general, well, I've played Gran Turismo my entire life, which obviously that ain't EA. But I'm a pretty big fan and supporter of that series, and I'm still willing to make some controversial comments about that game too, and I have no problem with it. I would do whatever I think is best for the community and will benefit the game as a whole. If I need to say something's terrible about it, by golly, I'm gonna say something terrible about it. And there's tons of proof of that. So I'm gonna attempt to be fairly unbiased as a fan of what I am. Meaning, I'll just check my channel in general and y'all can figure it out. General examples being racing games, skate games, aka Skate 3, and basketball. So the EA hasn't been the best in that in a while, but I'm kind of just going to go over all that in general. All in all, lead it to now. And then I'll obviously mention the big elephant in the room that has just now entered the room, figuratively speaking, compared to EA's entire existence, Apex Legends, that I've never played. Because at first I thought that sounded like a racing game, and then it wasn't, and I was a bit disappointed by that. But am I disappointed by EA in general now? Well, let's get into it. This clip that I'm showing is actually a pretty small clip, so I'll only show it through like certain parts of the video and stuff, but this is a clip of me playing Need for Speed 2015 and getting a pretty fast run at one of the events in the game. I think all in all it ended up being within about 8 seconds or so of the world record. And for an arcade game, 8 seconds is pretty good given all the craziness that can be done in a game. And well, there's a lot of craziness and good and bad ways that can be done with the Need for Speed games. But I'll start out at first being what I can grade in a unbiased way, meaning what I actually played. Again, this is mostly just my opinions, but I'm going to attempt to put some actual facts in there too to back up my opinion. So I'll start off with what I actually first played. The first EA games I played were the early Need for Speed Underground games and early NBA Live games. So, aka PS2 era. I think I played Need for Speed Underground a very little bit, but I remember 2 more vividly. And the first NBA Live game that I played I think was 02, maybe. To be fair though, I also had a Sega Dreamcast back then, so maybe the first NBA game I played in general might have actually been NBA 2K, like literally the first one. But the first NBA game I remember is NBA Live 05, and the first Need for Speed game I remember is Need for Speed Underground 2, so those would be the 2 that I start with. This is a straight up fact, NBA Live 05 is critically acclaimed. A lot of people like that game, a lot of people still like that game. Also, fact, Need for Speed Underground 2 is pretty big and critically acclaimed. A lot of people like that game. A lot of people still seem to like that game. I agree. I like both of those games. NBA Live 05 got me into playing the basketball video games in general. Really, what got me into basketball games in general is I'm a fan of the Kentucky Wildcats, but that's where I'm getting into more bias there, so I try to not be all that biased about something that ain't related to video games in general. Though they did make college basketball games, the only one I've actually played is College Basketball 10, which was the final one. So I'm not going to be too judgy about that just because I've only played one of the college basketball games. But this is where I will start taking a bit of judgment in. After NBA Live 05 / Need for Speed Underground 2, I think they came out both late 2004-ish. The next game I played a lot was Need for Speed Carbon. That was in the PS2, early PS3. I really like Need for Speed Carbon, and most people also do. But that's where people started to have a bit of a negative issue with EA because Need for Speed Carbon, a lot of people said, and I didn't play the game, so I can't be that big of a judge on it, was very similar to Need for Speed Most Wanted. A lot of people say Need for Speed Most Wanted was an incredible game, but never played it, so I'm not going to judge there. So, somewhat of a copy of a great game isn't necessarily a terrible thing, but it wasn't its own thing. Now, this is something that's kind of completely not its own thing. Beginning of the PS3 era was also the end of the 2K Sports era in football games. When I was a very young kid, I didn't play all that much football games just because basketball was an easier video game to play. The first Madden game that I think I played was Madden 08, and I think that was actually on the PS2. But I've never played a 2K football game. That's because EA about that time got exclusivity of NFL license. They did some other stuff with it too. I think there was like NFL Blitz and Streets and all that stuff too. I think I played like a demo of one of them or whatever, but nonetheless, the first NFL game that I remember vividly was Madden 09. I think actually the Madden 08 game I played was for the PSP now that I'm thinking about it, but the Madden 09 is the one I remember more good. I really liked it. But again, I never played a 2K equivalent to that. At that time, though, I can say for the basketball equivalent, there was a 2K side. There was NBA 2K9. I didn't have it, but I had 2K8. I looked at NBA Live 08 that year. Granted, I was only 9 and 10 years old, so it wasn't completely my decision, but me and my family both agreed that NBA 2K was the better one. And that's the one that EA didn't have exclusivity on. Moving forward a little bit. By about 2010, well, NBA Live, because EA didn't have exclusivity on basketball games, was pretty much dead. By 2011, it wasn't even called NBA Live. It was like NBA Elite or something. After 2005, I never played another EA Sports basketball game other than a few demos throughout the year. On my channel, I also have my fairly controversial thoughts on NBA 2K19. Not going to get into that too much this video, but I will say one game franchise in which it didn't have an exclusive license on, EA downright lost. The other one in which they did have an exclusive license on, well, went downhill. The next game that got after Madden 09 was Madden 12. It was worse than 09. Also, about that point, well, in 2009, I played Need for Speed Shift. I enjoyed it pretty well, but being a Gran Turismo fan in general, it wasn't as good as the Gran Turismo games. It was still fine. I'm not getting into that too much just because I played the Gran Turismo games more, because the Need for Speed Shift was more simulator-oriented, and, well, Gran Turismo games have always been that. So I'm not going to cover that too much because, well, there would be a bit more bias than that. What I will cover is Need for Speed Shift 2 a bit, because it was just downright worse than Shift 1. The physics felt a bit weird. Weird physics in Need for Speed games will be coming back later in this video, by the way. Y'all might know what that is. And just overall, it didn't get as good of reviews. That's a straight up fact as well. And then, a lot of the people who worked on the Need for Speed Shift games ended up working for the future Project Cars games, which in general got good reviews. So EA was starting to lose employees, that's going to come back later as well, to other series, or just lose employees in general. Now to the next thing, it's not quite a chronological timeline, but sort of in popularity it is. Skate franchise. I loved Skate 1, but I didn't play it myself. I played it a few times at other people's houses. The main reason I didn't get it is because I still actually played PS2 quite a bit back then too, as well as PS3. I just barely had a PS3 by that point, so I was playing both quite a bit. And the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater games were still really good. But then Skate 2 came around, it had a Hall Meat mode, and I was in love. AKA you wreck yourself, and that was incredible. Then Skate 3 happened. The rest is history. Y'all, no matter what you're here for in terms of this video, whether you're my usual GG Sport audience or you're here because of the EA thing, for or against EA, everyone here has seen some Skate 3 videos on YouTube. I can pretty much guarantee that. And everyone here probably already knows about this whole Skate 3 thing of the game was really popular. It stayed really popular, in fact, to the point of they had to reprint copies in 2014. But then yet, the company that was associated with EA, Black Box, ceased to exist, and that was more on EA's fault. So then, yeah, let's put it to the PS4 era now. Because that was pretty much the end of the PS3 era in terms of games I played that week. Yeah, I did play some NASCAR games along the way too, and they were good. I enjoyed them, but again, I'm a Gran Turismo fan, so the racing's kind of hard to say. Because NASCAR is more simulation than well Need for Speed. But now PS4 era. Yeah, it's not doing NASCAR anymore. It is not doing Skate anymore. It is not doing Need for Speed Shift anymore. Well, what are they doing? I'll say not NASCAR. That is when I did start playing some other NASCAR games because, well, they were made. And this is the first point really in this entire video other than the very start of the video, which is a point in EA's favor. PS3 to 4 era NASCAR games, aka 2013 to now, were quite bad. They weren't terrible, but I just did a whole series on NASCAR Heat 3, and I gave it about a 6 out of 10. And I said ultimately there's some parts that are fine about NASCAR Heat 3, and there's some parts that downright could not be done with the old NASCAR games in terms of online connectivity and stuff. So that gives that game some decent life. But I also said in that review, I'd still rather be playing NASCAR 08 right now. Still agree with that now, and well, yeah, that's the EA game. I played it on the PS2, and I still ultimately thought it was better than, well, NASCAR Heat 3. Point in EA's favor. They did NASCAR games pretty cotton picking good. But this is also more looking at now. They're not doing NASCAR games anymore. They're still not doing skate games anymore. Skate 4 has been rumored for a long time, it's still not happening. They still don't do Need for Speed Shift. This is what they're pretty much doing now. Need for Speed franchise in general. This is where I'll start the clip. PS4 era completely now. Need for Speed Underground 3 is what a lot of people were pretty much calling this before it was out. This meaning Need for Speed. This is literally what the game is called. It's Need for Speed, and then in parentheses 2015. Technically speaking, you're not supposed to say that. This game is literally called just Need for Speed. This is quite possibly the worst physics I've ever had in a racing game. The reason I'm showing this clip is I was still able to make these physics work fairly well. And actually, early on in my channel's lifetime, before GT4 happened, this was my most popular clip on the entire channel. And I was okay with that. I didn't like the game all that much, but I was pretty fast at it. And that goes to, well, I have a simulation racing background. I know how to throw around a car to be decently fast. And this, oddly enough, was one of the first PS4 games I was incredibly fast on. This and Drive Club I got roughly good at the same time, and then GT Sport just linearly came later, so I got good at it by default later. But, so yeah, this clip actually boosted popularity of my channel a whole heck of a heap, because, well, I was pretty fast at this. And yet I say this is the worst physics I've ever had in a racing game, but yet I, being simulation background, say I'm still good at the game. How does this happen? Well, that's because at this point in time, I still had enough faith in EA where I wanted to be good at this game, and I just made myself be good at this game. Did I enjoy much of any of it? Not particularly. But at this point in time, I wasn't really doing the rant videos like I am now. If I was at that point, I would have ripped EA a new one, to be quite honest. I really would have. I don't think I'm going to now because I'm beating a dead horse. Everyone has negative reviews of Need for Speed Shift, pretty much. Or Need for Speed. I mean to say Shift. I think what I was meaning to say is Need for Speed in general, meaning because that was the last game I reviewed before then was Shift. So this Need for Speed game, everyone has some pretty bad reviews on, but I did not play any of the Need for Speed games after this one, meaning Payback or anything else Need for Speed related. This was it for me, and pretty much after this video, I was actually completely done with the game. I made a popular video. I did one more drift montage that did fairly well in views. I quite enjoyed how that turned out, even though it was really hard to do because the physics were broken and well. Yeah, that just gave me no motivation to buy the new Need for Speed games, and especially given that the most recent Need for Speed game, Payback, got a 5.9 average score-ish. Out of 10. Yeah, I ain't paying money for that, especially knowing how bad this one was. It looked pretty, but that was about it. And then now, yeah, you notice how pretty much all I reviewed on the PS4 era was Need for Speed stuff? Now that's essentially all we have for EA Sports that I play. Again, this is more my review. And that's basically all I play with EA anymore because, well, if they had a skateboarding game, I'd play it. They still kind of have a basketball game, but I went into detail about that in other videos. Ultimately, despite 2K being quite bad now, NBA is still somewhat worse in some ways. I may get into that later, but for now, I'll just say, what's really redeeming EA at this point? I mean, as of now, EA's had like one positive, except for the very first bit of this video, meaning 15 years ago or so. And that lone positive pretty much just being that the old NASCAR games are good, so essentially what it was 15 years ago. Well, now, 2019, EA is still keeping some of the online of select old games. One of which is Burnout Paradise. I haven't mentioned the Burnout series this entire time because, well, it's actually still a series. One of its classic games is still a running series. And we didn't even really know this until 2018. Burnout Paradise Online, the original PS3 version, still has online. And then Burnout Paradise Remastered happened last year. Obviously, it still has online too. And well, that's quite incredible. I never saw that coming in a million years. Burnout Paradise is still online now, and then especially not Burnout Paradise Remastered happening at all. And that started me getting a little bit of faith in it. Despite all the stuff that's been reviewed on many other people's channels of the microtransactions and the stupidity in terms of the general gameplay and how they're scamming people, notice how all this review in general is about the gameplay more than the game, quote-unquote, enhancements, or whatever EA tries to word it. That's because we're too now. I know that sounds kind of redundant, but we're too now in the present time period and what I'm talking about in the video. The gameplay of EA games is kind of the same as it was back in the 2000s. Need for Speed, literally that's what it called, the one on screen here, was terrible. But then Need for Speed Payback, well, it had cops, and it had crazy jumps, and it had cool cutscenes with a lot of cool cars, and basically, if I was to explain Need for Speed Payback to someone, and then explain Need for Speed Carbon to someone, in a very broad way, I'd be explaining the same thing. But most people love Need for Speed Carbon, and most people hate Need for Speed Payback, who's played them both. Again, though I said with Need for Speed Carbon, most people love it, but some people are starting to even feel iffy about EA at that point. It was at that point when games started looking somewhat repetitive, when EA bought an exclusive license, and in Burnout Paradise, a game I'm saying is even incredible that it's so rad, it even had microtransactions to the point. It had a pay-to-win feature, meaning you could pay to get all of the cars that are already in the game, bought to be in it. Skate 2 had this, Skate 3 had this, all of which are three incredible games, Burnout Paradise, Skate 2, and Skate 3. So even at 2006-ish and on, EA's been looking iffy. This is far from a new issue, this is far from a PS4 era issue. And despite as much as I want it, EA can't be like they were in the PS2 era anymore. Because yes, we all loved Need for Speed Underground 2, there were no microtransactions. We all loved Burnout Takedown, Burnout 3. Didn't even mention that game because, well, PS2 era. Yes, I actually played it quite a bit, but not as much as Need for Speed Underground 2, so I've mentioned it more. Both of those were incredible with no microtransactions, but that was two gaming consoles before. Yes, it is terrible that modern EA games have microtransactions, but my point that I'm making is at least in gameplay, EA seems to be trying. They made Need for Speed Payback. It's still quite bad. It's still quite unoriginal, but they at least tried to do some of the things that fans said to do. They improved the physics. They added more things to make it feel like an actual experience more than just turn to drift. It was really just Need for Speed, this game on screens. It was far from good, but at least they put a bit of effort into it. NBA Live, at one point, quite literally didn't exist. It's still not good, but at least they're putting a little bit of effort into it now. At least it exists. Yes, it's microtransaction filled and all that, but then there's Burnout Paradise Remastered. Remember how I said Burnout Paradise original game was a pay to win? Burnout Paradise Remastered ain't. There's no DLC to it to pay money for, especially what's already in the game, because all that's given to you. Yes, EA, within the last year, put out a game that has everything in it, remastered a game that everyone loved, and with no DLC in the last year. The point I'm making is, EA is all in all a company, and the companies want to make the most money. Is it really evil for a company to try to make tons of money? Not really. What's really evil of a company if they're trying to make all this money and then literally put no effort into the games? At least EA is somewhat listening to the fans. They have actually held off on some of the microtransactions with some of the games. They have at least tried to make the games like they used to be when people liked the games. But part of why people like the old EA games is because they didn't have the microtransactions. So as long as these games, even if they somewhat play like the old games, still have the microtransactions that all of the new games have, EA is still not going to be the most well-liked company. But I say like the new games have in general, meaning a lot of companies, not just EA, have microtransactions. Yes, EA is quite terrible in their microtransactions, but a lot of companies are quite terrible in their microtransactions nowadays. And I went over that in separate videos on my channel as well. So, how can we really rate EA in terms of if they're truly evil? Well, they're at least starting to listen to the fans, and they're still keeping some parts alive in EA in general of what we used to love 15 or so years ago. They're at least making NBA Live again. There's been rumors of Skate 4. It seems like they're putting an effort into eventually at least hinting at making Skate 4. Meaning there's now a patent issue with it that's been covered on other channels. I'm not going to get into that too much. And then they are still paying attention to Burnout. So, no, I don't necessarily like EA as a company. There's a lot of companies that can still make a lot of money but have a lot less microtransactions. But there's some companies out there that I honestly think at this point are worse than EA too. So are they truly evil? No, they're just greedy. There's a lot of greedy people out there who aren't downright evil. They're just greedy because that's what makes them money, and maybe greedy for themselves is kind of iffy too, because, well, it's a whole corporation. EA employs a whole heck of a heap of people, there's no denying that. And the money they make, well, somebody's got to get it, so somebody's benefiting from this. Can you really fault greed if there's still some people benefiting from it? Well, that's kind of hard to say, because at least those people benefiting from it are at least attempting to benefit the community now. So, is EA overall a good company? No. Or are they downright evil and heartless and don't have the consumer in mind and blah 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 that some of the other channels said? No, they at least somewhat care, but they can only care to an extent because they have to think about the financials. Then there's Apex Legends, the new hottest game that's even beating Fortnite as of now when I upload this video. Never played it. I never will. But this is the make or break point for EA. Not trying to hold on to the past. Not trying to completely get rid of the now, meaning they're still not completely getting rid of microtransactions. They're still stringing that along as much as they can. This is their future, not microtransactions, not even Need for Speed or Burnout, or even Skate, believe it or not. As much as I want Skate 4, that's not the future of EA. I want it to be, but it ain't. Apex Legends is better to the profits. It's not a better game in my opinion, and I would never play it, but it's better to the profits. If EA can make this game work without microtransactions that are pay to win, I have no problem if there being microtransactions to just buy aesthetic skins if people are stupid enough to buy them. Whatever, that's their own individual, this isn't. Then, even that while Apex Legends exists and EA is making tons of money off the cash cow, if they're not being greedy with it and add pay-to-win microtransactions, and they continue to keep Burnout Paradise plus Remastered Online going, and they at least continue to seem like they put effort into possibly making Skate 4 at some point, and they're at least continuing to at least acknowledge the fans' existence with Need for Speed and NBA Live, I don't really consider EA that evil, and as of now, they're actually doing all of those things. Apex Legends will be the big decider for EA in their future. But for now, EA is looking a lot better than they were before. Yeah, there is some stuff in the old days that were very much negatives that are still continuing, like they still have the exclusive NFL license. But it's looking like some loopholes starting to come up from that. Like, it's looking like there may end up being a college football game within a year or two or something. And EA doesn't have the exclusive license of Porsche anymore. EA doesn't seem like they're going to take control of Toyota. That actually seems like it's going to be Polyphony Digital. That's Sony. That may be a separate video. But, well, for now, EA is looking better than it did a few years ago. Are they good? No. Can they be good? I'm not expecting them to, but I feel like they physically could. I don't see it happening, but they physically could. And, well, maybe that'll be worth a yeehaw at some point in the future. For now, I'm just going to give a meh. But a meh is a lot better for EA than a lot of people rating it a few years ago. I'll say that. I'll just live out the past in terms of Burnout Paradise Remastered for now. And maybe wait for the future, like a new Burnout game, or the EA franchises evolve to get good again, like Need for Speed or NBA Live. And maybe, just maybe, hope for Skate 4. And people who want to can live the present with Apex Legends. For now, well, continuing with however path you want to take with EA, if even no path at all. And whatever you hope, just have fun. And just remember, at one point, EA was pretty well loved. At one point, it was pretty widely hated. And we're at neither of those points right now.